Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about having a Sagittarius Sun and a Gemini Ascendant in a natal chart. Now, these signs are opposite. They are not compatible by sign. However, they're both mutable signs, which suggest adaptability and flexibility, and they can be very easygoing and lighthearted about things. The difference is where these signs are diametrically opposed is when you look at it, that Sagittarius Sun can be very truth-seeking. They could speak the strong truth, the unadulterated, veritable truth. And Gemini rising doesn't necessarily have a problem with speaking the truth, but sometimes they may not do this in order not to hurt someone's feelings, as Gemini can be a little bit more lighter and a little bit, I guess you could say, more tactful and diplomatic as opposed to Sagittarius. A Gemini might be afraid to say something that might come across as somewhat abrasive or hurtful. So these are some things where they're opposed, and also a Sagittarius, when they learn something, a lot of it I think is like broad subjects and concepts and learning it fully to completion, while Gemini rising can be the type that can be very adept at learning things at a very rapid pace, but may learn superficially, and they might learn a lot about a little about a lot of different subjects, as variety and versatility can be Gemini rising specialty. So you have certain ways where these two signs are in conflict, and of course, Sagittarius being a fire sign, they can have a fiery temperament, while Gemini rising being an air sign is a little bit more lighter. It's more about being amiable, it's more just more as far as not being quite as disputatious, more amicable, and a little bit maybe more agreeable than Sagittarius on average. Now, look at these. Look at this now. The sun sign can represent our basic wants in our natal chart, while the rising sign or ascendant can represent the manner or method in which one attains these basic wants. Now, with Sagittarius Sun, the Sagittarius Sun basic wants can be connected with philosophy, possibly religion, things connected with higher education, expanding horizons, things of a philosophical nature, being that perpetual learner, could be long distance traveling, exploration, and really, when you look at in Gemini rising might do this in a rather in a rather vivacious manner, being very lively, being very active. They may not, Gemini rising may not always follow up completely on the Sagittarius Sun basic wants, because Gemini rising is not always about persistence, but they may have the Sagittarius Sun, their objectives may be there, but Gemini rising might not follow up on those objectives completely. Or when you can look at this, they might, like, for example, let's say we talk about the philosophies. Well, Gemini rising can be very talkative and loquacious. They could talk a lot about these philosophies, and say, for example, they may let's say Sagittarius Sun can often be connected with sports, not necessarily professional, but having Gemini rising, this might be a person that might be interested in a manifold number of sports and like to do a lot of different things, and just might be that way with a lot of the basic wants connected with Sagittarius. Now, expanding the horizons, perhaps that could be done through like a Gemini type, like a subject, like maybe taking a course in some kind of communication field, whether it might be broadcasting, writing. This person might be really adept at, like, for example, being a sports announcer, because sports being associated with Sagittarius, and then the announcer comes in expressing this with perhaps Gemini eloquence and verbosity. So that's some things to look at with this combination. And some other Gemini rising maybe higher education things this person might pursue. It could be something connected like working with the hands, such as carpentry, auto mechanics, refrigeration mechanics, possibly science. Both these signs can be rather scientific. So in that respect, they are similar as well, and perhaps something connected with just a communication field in general, such as data communications. It could be satellite repair or some kind of electronics repair. Science covers a wide divergence of subjects such as biology and chemistry, for example. So these are some things to consider as far as having this combination in one's chart. Now, the thing is, it's important to look at the aspect, if any, that is made between the Sagittarius Sun and the Gemini Ascendant. This could show whether how these energies may integrate or maybe not. Not so much. Actually, the two main ones that would happen as far as major are opposition and the inconjunct. So some people may think it might be better if they're not aspected because it would be more isolated energy, but no matter how you look at it, they're still incompatible by sign, and just a matter of having a fundamental grasp of the subject and knowing about Sagittarius and Gemini, where you can maybe make them work somewhat together. Now, let's say, for example, you have an opposition aspect take place, and you have the Sagittarius Sun at 12 degrees. And the Gemini Ascendant at 15 degrees, for example. Well, they are opposite by sign anyway, but if you have the opposition aspect, this may intensify as far as the maybe some difficulty in integrating this energy. And it is an adverse aspect and adversarial, and even if the person is not cognizant of his or her astrological placements, it could indicate that this person might feel at least somewhat misconstrued or misunderstood by others due to the fact that these energy, what they're projecting outwardly, may be strongly different than what is going on inside. And the same could happen with the inconjunct. Let's say somebody has an out-of-sign inconjunct aspect between the Sagittarius Sun and the Gemini Ascendant. Let's say the Sagittarius Sun is 28 degrees and the Gemini Ascendant is 1 degree. That would form an out-of-sign inconjunct aspect between these signs, and similarly, like the opposition, you could still have its adversarial, and you could have those feelings, perhaps of feeling misconstrued or misunderstood, which could cause some inner exasperation and tension. And just the fact that you have this conflicting energy going on, whether it is the opposition or the inconjunct. And it's also important to look at and see what house the Sagittarius Sun is posited in, as this could indicate perhaps even though the Gemini rising may suppress some of the Sagittarius energy to some degree, the Sagittarius energy may still come out at least somewhat prominently in that particular house it resides in. Now, let's say that the Sagittarius Sun is located in the 6th house. Well, this energy might be dissipated a little more because the 6th house is a cadent house, and generally the energies of planets may be weaker in those cadent houses. However, that Sagittarius, that exuberance, enthusiasm might come out strongly in matters connected with health, work, and service, perhaps, and with their fellow employees if applicable. Now, let's say the Sagittarius Sun is in the 7th house. Well, this energy may come out a little bit more prominently because the 7th house is angular. Energies can come out stronger in angular houses. And this person might bring their philosophical, buoyant nature, perhaps in matters connected with partnerships and relationships, and really not have that, maybe that it also be put a lot of exuberance in this as well. Now, let's say that the Sagittarius Sun is in the 8th house. Well, this person might put this enthusiastic, expansive Sagittarius energy in matters connected perhaps with sex and with transformation, regeneration. And anyway, people, That'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for having a Sagittarius Sun and Gemini Ascendant in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about having a Sagittarius Sun and a Cancer Ascendant in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.